to our next interview in our Spotlight series. This week, we are joined by a very good friend, Peter Ohnemus. Peter, welcome.
Thank you so much, and good to see you again, Matt.
Peter, before diving into dacadoo and what the business gets up to, tell me a little bit about your background. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, well, I started my first company when I was 23, and that was in the database technology. And that time, all insurances were in flat files. So this was what you call the relational database industry. So my company was called the SQL Group. I merged that or sold that to Sybase, and Mark Hoffman, who's the founder of Sybase, he's the vice chairman now of dacadoo. So you see, we go together for 30 years. After that, I joined a company called LogicWorks, which was a spin-off out of Princeton University. So we were looking at all the processes. So it was the first kind of where you could draw boxes of insurances, put the processes together. So that was LogicWorks. So both of them went public on NASDAQ, and I was like, oh my God, if I can make those guys so wealthy, I can do it myself. So I founded my own satellite company and did what you call IP Multicast. So this is basically point to multipoint. So I want you to think Netflix, but 20 years earlier. And so basically took all the backbone traffic of the internet, put it over satellite, and thereby making it up to 1,000 times faster than conventional internet back in '95. So taking it over satellite and then distributing it over high-speed engines. And after that, I founded a company called Asset 4 together with Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch. So we were doing sustainability rating. Why did I do that? Because I have 5 wonderful daughters, and I thought as an entrepreneur, you have a social responsibility. So we founded Asset 4 in 2004. Hank Paulson, who became the finance minister later of America, was also a Boy Scout, and I convinced Goldman that sustainability was important. We built a rating database looking at the world's 4,000 largest companies, their energy usage, water usage, legal claims, board compensation, female representation in the management team, etc. And in 2009, both Thomson Reuters and Bloomberg came knocking at my door, and we sold it to Thomson Reuters. If you look backwards, you could say it was too early, because afterwards, obviously, ESG and sustainability exploded. But for me, it was not only about money, it was about making a difference. And I'm very proud that I wrote the original patent around carbon emission and the impact of carbon pricing and how to discount it on a balance sheet of a public quoted company. So fast forward in 2010, I thought if you can do sustainability rating of a human life, of a public quoted company, you could do it of a human life. And came up with a dacadoo with the goal of creating a global health score. So the reason why I told a bit about my background was obviously we couldn't have done what we did without understanding big data, mission critical data, encrypted data, meaning high level of data privacy, and then making something meaningful out of that data. Yeah.
Wow, you must be exhausted. It's a good journey, that one, Peter. It's a good journey, but it's interesting. It's interesting, especially hearing lots of the founders that I will talk to are first-time founders, or maybe they have done a business in the past, but it's multiple businesses and rarely multiple successes as well. And I'm sure there's some highs and lows, and I'm sure there's some highs that aren't as high as other highs as well that you've had. But great to see you doing so well with dacadoo as well. It's a business that I'm sure most people listening to this, certainly most people in the insurance industry, and certainly the health insurance industry will now know of. You've touched on it a little, but from the kind of at a superficial level, dacadoo develops technology solutions for digital health engagement. What does that mean in today's world? What is this the health score that you talk about? What does digital health engagement look like, and what is dacadoo as a business?
I know that's an excellent question. First of all, the reason why we did it was health is multifaceted. It's very complex, and I have 4 of the world's leading healthcare professors on our board, and I'm even saying, I don't understand health, even that I listen to these guys. So health is dynamic. It's, as you know, in a going through an evolution that we have never seen before. I always say to my children, imagine if COVID would have come 10 years ago, it would have been very, very fatal. So health right now has been put on, this super flight to the moon, so to say, meant in a positive sense, lots of moonshots in health. And in my eyes, it's the biology and the electronics coming closer and closer and closer. So nanosensors, data transmission, 5G networks, etc., are creating this explosion. So why did we found dacadoo and what do we do? First, we said, let's do something people can understand. In my eyes, if you can understand something, you can improve something. So let's create a health score. Let's make it a number from 1 to 1,000. Why not 1 to 10 or 1 to 100? Because a life is multifaceted. It's a broad life. Let's give in what people already understand, meaning the model. So the health score, as you know, is globally patented. It's licensed by 35 of the top 100, life and health insurance operators around the world. So basically, what did we do? We said, let's look at the health of the person. Let's look at how the person lives, and let's look at how the person feels. And if you go back 540 years in history, you would say, okay, that was what Da Vinci, you remember when he made the arms and the legs and the drawing, that was already kind of things he was looking into at the time. So provide a holistic view, give people a proxy of their life, which is, your life is long. Health is not a sprint. Health is a marathon. So basically, it's not like your health goes up and down like a stock market quote or whatever. So we said, let's provide this holistic view of health. That's the health score. Then we said, let's provide a switchboard of digital health. So we built an API layer on top of the health score. So anyone today can go on dacadoo, and program on top of the health score. Then we said, let's build a navigation system. Why a navigation system? Because I drive through life. So this navigation system we call Wheel of Life. We spent over 2 years working very, very deeply on this innovation, which, as you know, became Product of the Year by Gartner Group, Cool Vendor 2021. And it has really been, I would say, a breakthrough year for dacadoo this year. So basically, give people something they understand, give them an API layer so they can integrate other health services. Let's say you are a telehealth company. Let's say you do blood testing. Let's say you have a portal that sells insurances. So basically anyone can set, their own offering or place their own offering on top of this standard API. Then we built Wheel of Life. Why? Because many insurance operators, they want to have a dynamic environment where it's very attractive for the user. So we benchmark this engagement, as you talked about before. We call it DHEP now in the industry, digital health engagement, as you correctly said. So this is becoming an industry in itself, just like relational databases or portals or whatever. So at the end of the day, it was about providing this integrated experience, integrating the Apple Watches, integrating the underwriters, integrating the healthcare providers. So all these services can sit beautifully aligned on top of a digital health engagement platform. The last thing we did, which was very complex, was we created our risk engine. So our risk engine can score mortality and morbidity. It integrates over 300 million man-years of clinical data that we have used and have had access to, and public studies, private studies, etc. So the risk engine, if you would think like an oil industry, is going downstream, because at the upstream, you have the digital health engagement. That's the front-facing lifestyle navigation towards the consumer. And then downstream, you score the mortality and the morbidity. Now, why is this a new innovation? Because all underwriters or applications today are mostly based on live tables. So they look at static data, they look at historical data. We advance that data by integrating mortalities such as cancer, stroke, etc. So of course we use the live tables. Of course we use key mortality models, and then we take the morbidities. So this could be, kidney failure, it could be, diabetes 2, etc. So in the future, we will see a lot more micro-based services. You can do slice and dice of different services, and we will have the, let's call it absolute risk that you know from life tables, and the relative risk that you know out of extra lifestyle data from the watches, from the biosensors, etc.
Superb. When working with health insurers, I'm particularly interested in how are they receiving this, I guess, new way of doing business, and also kind of in turn, are you able yet to evidence kind of improved outcomes as a result?
Yeah. So number one is the health insurance industry as we know it today is about 120, 130 years old. So that came from Otto von Bismarck, who was the Chancellor of Germany, and who invented health insurance because he couldn't attract talent to work for the German government. The second generation of insurance we saw was, after Second World War, same in America, GE, IBM, etc., couldn't find enough employees after the Second World War, so they came up with corporate benefits. So to answer your questions, and corporate benefit, of course, can be both, health insurance and life insurance. But basically, just to touch on what you were addressing there, is we haven't seen much innovation in the foundation of health insurance since Second World War. I would say that the ground foundation was laid by Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. Then there was a follow-up with after the Second World War, and as you know, the baby bells came up, and the signals and the anthems of this world. So to kind of wrap it all together, we probably went through a 70-year period where business was good, and you either had the public healthcare system like you have in England or in Denmark or in Italy, France, and then there came the private health insurance on top. Going forward, it's going to be outcome-based. So the outcome-based will mean that you will have a lot better risk modeling, you will have a lot better prediction. So as we move forward, it is about predicting and preventing. And the whole industry, just collecting money and paying out bills is not much of a value. So you see that the advanced health insurers, and I have no shares whatsoever, I'm just saying, I don't think it was a coincidence that CVS, bought Aetna, right? So they
Sure.
kind of said, I'm over here delivering some services, and these guys are over here paying those services. So at dacadoo, we made a very big study last year called the Integrated Insurance Operator, where we interviewed hundreds and hundreds of health insurances around the world, where we addressed what is this ecosystem? How do I survive? Because if you think about a primary carrier in health insurance in many, many markets, and we are really, across many markets around the world, they earn 1%, 2%, 3% EBITDA, and the reinsurer maybe makes 10 or 20% margin. So you get the point. They are not good at connecting themselves with the consumer's life. They're not good at integrating themselves with the consumer's life. And that's why I, as an entrepreneur and doing all these years of programming data, I say data becomes the life nerve for any health insurer. So they move closer to my life, they become relevant to my life, and they become easier to do business with. At dacadoo, we call this the REF factor, so relevant, easy, and fun. And we benchmark that in real time. As you know, we built the Digital Health Engagement Institute this year, which is a non-profit, has nothing to do with dacadoo, its own board, non-profit. Any of our competitors, any who wants to join, can join the institute as we built it. Why do we do that? Because we believe after global warming, the most burning issue is health engagement. And just paying, I know you know, but I'm just saying, if you are an air condition, you have a valve, right? So it releases cold or it releases warm, but there is no intelligence involved, right? So it's just energy you release, or it's energy that you collect. Now, why wouldn't you, as an insurance operator, say, I'm not just a stupid, and you know what I mean by stupid,
sure,
valve, I want to enhance the value that I give to the consumer. And that's what we at dacadoo, as you know, last year announced at the International Insurance Society, their annual meeting, what we call #WeCare. So we line up all these insurance operators that are behind the #WeCare initiative, where they really show a difference. And I say, looking after you, looking after Matt is a good business because number one, he stays longer alive, so he pays longer premium. I'm not making fun. There is less payout, and Matt thinks, wow, they care about me. You know, they really want that I have a good life. And I think that's the change from, and again, don't get me wrong, when I say stupid, let's call it analog. Sure. Maybe it was politically correct. The analog insurance operator, which is just the valve of cash. So you collect cash from the consumer. I know you understand, but I'm just explaining. And then you release cash to pay the bills. Why wouldn't I enhance my service offering? And it pops up on my smartwatch, whatever it is, on my headphone, on my VR screen, whatever it is. And it says, I have recognized over the last 30 days, your blood pressure has increased with 5%, or you have lost, an unnaturally amount of weight, which, as you know, is an indicator of cancer, whatever. So you get these early warning signals, you integrate them into the model, and you become a lot more consumer relevant.
Love it. Let's take, you mentioned geography, and let's take a step back and look at your business. So you also mentioned working with 35 of the top 100 health and life insurers, which tracking your progress over the years, that number has steadily been climbing, and I'm sure that will continue. I'm keen to learn more about the business today. So where are you at with respect to products in markets? You've touched on traction, performance, and also geographic footprint, because we've had some good chats about the work you're doing around the world. Shed a little light on that if you would, Peter.
Yeah, I would be happy to. When we started 11 years ago, we actually started in England. So we worked very closely with the Nuffield Foundation, as you know, a big hospital operator. We worked with AOK, Europe's largest. It's a German, public government health organization. We worked in America with Walmart, Walgreens, etc., on scoring all their data, finding risk parameters, etc. Over time, we then came up with a health score platform, which was in 2015, and then in 2016 we came out with the API. Why do I mention this? Because we came from the risk scoring and then building this platform economy that everybody talks about now. When you look at the geographical acceptance, which I think is very important in this, we have seen Asia being very, very receptive to modern digital technology and dacadoo. So I think without even blinking with an eye or not doing any commercials, I think we can say we are number one in Asia today, at no doubt. So this is from HSBC, Manulife, Cigna, across the chain where we are their platform without doing any advertising. America was a bit a harder nut to break. Why was that? Because many of them in 2010, 2012 built their own platforms. So many of the companies, if it was a Cigna, Anthem in America, United Healthcare Group with Raleigh, so they all built their own platforms, and so they were not, so open for a platform discussion. And as you said, I'm an entrepreneur, and share with what I can share without breaking any non-disclosure agreements. Then I would say over the last 2 years with COVID, those big insurance operators in America, they realized now I really have to move. And I know all these studies from McKinsey, 60 times increase in telemedicine and so on. But I don't think it's only that. I think it's the foundation of a real economy of scale. So you can integrate those different medical services and build those into your service layer as an insurance company. Yeah. So over the last 2 years, America has been very good to dacadoo. In Europe, we are today in quite a few markets. We are the platform for Falk, which is the largest healthcare operator in Europe. And of course, Denmark, as you know, is the most advanced, and not because I spent my childhood there, is the most advanced on the digital health side. You have everything on a smart card, ID, everything that they discuss, within the EU. So in Europe, markets are very different. Digital, unfortunately, in Germany is very far behind. I'm sure you have followed the Chancellor discussions that she didn't, bring innovation, and it's going to be a high price now for them to pay. I would say France is giving good gas. I mean, they are, more innovative. The UK traditionally is just a more competitive market. There's more access to venture capital, which is an important part of digital health. And in Southern Europe, we have seen good successes in Spain and Portugal so far. When we go to LATAM, that's a fantastic market for us. So I just love them. We have Unimed Seguros, which is the largest hospital chain and insurance company in LATAM, 20 million lives, over 400 hospitals. They have built their complete super app based on dacadoo integrated, So that's LATAM has been a wonderful success story. So they have moved at different times because the venture capital has made a difference. So in Asia, there was a lot of venture capital coming into alternative insurance operators, which with Singapore Life and all these different alternative FWD and all these guys that were coming up. So they moved relatively early. I would say the slowest of those, 4 big key markets is, unfortunately, today probably Europe, and Europe needs to catch up. And tomorrow I'm participating in a meeting with the EU, where we are talking about how can we, I know the UK left, unfortunately, but, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, how can we drive digital health across Europe in a more dynamic way? So there's a big EU meeting there tomorrow.
Well, I look forward to hearing how that goes, because I couldn't be behind that more. It needs to happen, right? Yeah. And with that, there are a growing number. It's really interesting hearing you talk about moving from protection to prevention, and it's a lot of the conversations that we have with our health insurance clients are around just how do they move their strategy, move the dial towards that. And there are, within sort of the broader ecosystem, and I'm sure there are plenty of competitors as well, but there are a lot of players coming into this space, and there's they're responding to a growing appetite, but they're also driving demand, and a number of health insurers are reacting to to incorporate this as part of their propositions. Where do you see, so without giving your strategy away too much, where do you see the digital health engagement market heading, and I guess sort of ultimately, where do you see dacadoo's role within that going forward?
Yeah, no, that I mean, it's a fair and a good question. So going forward, I don't think you will survive as an insurance operator without having a platform strategy. If it is software as a service, outsourced, partly, you get the point. So in my eyes, it's not about, will I make it or not make it? You simply don't have a choice. I was giving a webinar last week in India. It was so full, and just to give an example, because Amazon just got the health insurance license in India. So guess what? All of the big names you can spell, they are now, moving forward on their digital strategy. So as we move forward, the classical operators, they have a lot of cash, and some of them are profitable, some of them are not profitable. Number one, I think it's going to come to a bigger consolidation on the insurance operator side. So the ones that get the digital health engagement, they will simply become the consolidators. You then have the challengers, so the Oscars, the WeFox, all of these guys, the Allens, whatever they're called, and there, obviously the jury is still out. Can they? And I mean, that's your question at the end of the day. Can they engage better with the consumer? Can they create a more profitable model? What is interesting from a financial perspective is when I was invited to speak at Stifel, their annual insurance conference, which is always very good in London. KBW is the subsidiary. There was one of the analysts who showed the insurance world what is the PE on an old insurer versus a digital insurer. And I mean, it's a bit scary because a classical life and health insurer is trading anywhere at 12, 15, max 20 PE, right? So if you take the Zurichs, the Allianz, I mean, we all know the names, and you then go over and you start comparing with, a Lemonade or any of the other guys, you will suddenly see, if you look at the, price to book or the, revenue per client or whatever measure, they actually are priced at 4 times more value than an analog, classic operator. So to answer your question, the market would pay more for the integrated offering. That was why we did the integrated insurance operator offering. The market would pay more for the one that understands the ref factor, the relevance, easy and fun. Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's the Amazon model where you just want to get bigger and bigger. It's about scaling and getting closer. And by getting closer, you can, create products that are more appreciated, meaning better price point. And, last week I was talking to a big retail chain, and I told them, when you sell things in your supermarkets, you earn 2-3% margin, right? EBITDA margin. It doesn't matter which one of them they are. When you sell organic food, you earn 10-15%. So the consumer has given the vote because the wallet is what pays. So if I say, I'm willing to pay more for good food, I have spoken. I have voted with my credit card. And I hope that makes sense to you. Why,
it does.
Engagement is so important.
Lovely. Peter, I think you've got a fantastic business. I've been a fan for a while. It's lovely to connect. Thank you for your time today. It's a great pleasure. I'm looking forward to meeting in real life one of these days, whether that's in LATAM or it's in India or it's in Europe, I don't know. But thank you for your time. Have a good rest of your day. And I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat.
Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you for spending time with me. And thank you to all the listeners for listening to our talk. Thank you so much.